Anyways, I broke off from that, started the Murder Hobo show. I do two podcasts, one on Savage Rifts and one on ICRPG called Threats, Treats, and Timers, because it is my sort of my newfound love. It's my new crush.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna talk about. ICRPG. You just picked me up the whole entire bundle on drive-through. I mean, you get, I think there's like what 15 or 20 downloads in there, $25. I mean, get the entire game, get all kinds of art, cards, couple of big PDFs. I liked what I saw. It's nice and simple. We'll talk about that, but and talking about simplicity, when we started playing back in the 80s, D&D was pretty simple back then. So why don't you tell us how you got into D&D, and then we'll start talking about modern day D&D, and then we'll go into ICRPG and why you like the game so much and stuff like that. And don't forget, you got to tell us about the Murder Hobo show too. What is the Murder Hobo show all about? Because that's why you're on tonight.
It's a free podcast. We don't ask for anything. We do it when we can do it. It's basically Savage Rifts. We talk about Savage Rifts, and we do Threats, Treats, and Timers. And it's essentially just a break off of the Wild Eye podcast. I wanted to talk about other things other than Savage Worlds. I'm almost a 40-year gamer. I'll be 48 this year. I started when I was 8. I got a lot of knowledge to impart. A lot of things that I did wrong over the years, a lot of things I did right, including getting drunk when I was 20 and trying to shave my buddy's eyebrows off. That all spawned from drinking and dragons as we got older. But
we used to try to put each other as the first person up would fall asleep. We would always try the hand in the warm water trick, and that shit never worked one time. That's a bunch of bullshit.
I tell you, man, I've been playing since I was 8, and it for me, when I started D&D, playing basic and stuff like that, we did Keep in the Borderlands. We did so much Keep in the Borderlands.
Well, I mean, you had to. It was massive. I mean, the caves were just insane. And then you had the rest of the adventures too, with the priests and everything. So
yeah, there was all the stuff inside the keep and whatnot, trying to figure out who the evil dude was and whatnot. But it's funny because again, back to the simplicity thing. There were so many times when we would argue about how far
fucking rust monsters in those caves. Torch. Those fucking rust monsters were everywhere.
Man, the goblins, the ogres. There's a vampire in there that's tied up, or no? I think you think it's a woman. I think she was a damsel in distress that turned out to be a vampiress. Oh man, I love it.
Whoa, spoilers!
Yeah.
If you haven't played it, you'll never play it if you haven't played it. Today. I mean, it's only been out since the '80s, early '80s.
Didn't Goodman Games just did a redo of it?
Yeah, I saw it for
with
5e.
I think a redo for every edition. It's huge, Dave. It's like 100 and some odd pages, man. Like you could beat a small dog off with that.
Yeah.
And I don't mean in a sexually arousing way. I mean, like if it tried to attack you, you could probably kill it with this book.
Well, Wizards redid it as well in 4th edition, and it was 4 or 5 books, and it was for the D&D encounters. It was like one of the last scenarios before they went into D&D Next, the D&D Next playtest with all of the, Minds of Madness, and redoing a bunch of the, just old crap that, that they tested for 5e.
I'm a little sad that I skipped over 4th edition. That was my rearing children phase, so to speak.
Yeah.
I started off playing D&D in the basement of my buddy Balfour's house with the basic set. Everything was very simplistic at the time. Even before they got into the advanced and started to pick up the crunch.
So you played classic with like elves and fighters, and elves were elves and fighters were humans, and there were dwarves and halflings, and
yes, I have a serious disdain for elves. They have to be the most mentally challenged race. Any race that's long lived like that and doesn't get to be any smarter than humans after being alive for hundreds of years, I take issue with that idea.
A good elf or half elf is a dead one. That's my opinion. Is this on? Hello.
We share the same
let the hate mail come in the comments on YouTube. Sorry, all you elf fans out there.
I don't mind. There's nothing like getting lit up. That's kind of my favorite thing to do. But
I'm used
so
to
I
it.
started off playing Keep in the Borderlands, playing Basic. We went from Basic to Expert. I believe Expert just came out. I think that was Boot Hill, something, the Mansion House on Boot Hill or something. Do you remember that one, the blue box? That was Advanced. And then they
Yes.
went from the blue box, then they went to First Edition. And then I played all
Well,
of First Edition for
Immortals was a
years.
gold box. I think. Well, they were still putting out classic D&D stuff as Advanced was out, and then Second Edition came out, and Second Edition was the huge mega monopoly that it was on just 50 products a month. I mean, literally tons of stuff coming out every month, but
I
that
used to
was
love going to the gaming store.
back in their heyday. You know what I mean?
I keep
Sorry.
I keep muting my burps, and you're just letting them fly.
Hey, that's all right. We have no rules here.
Yeah. The Second Edition stuff was top notch. Every edition's gotten a little bit better. They've cinched it up a little bit, and then Third Edition came out, and I don't know what happened with Third Edition, but within 6 months they were pumping out 3.5.
I didn't think
Like,
Third Edition was that bad. I mean, Third Edition came out in what, 2000 or whatever it was. I mean, I was in my heyday with EverQuest and Dark Age of Camelot, so I was, we were happy we weren't rolling dice anymore. But after a year or so, we were missing it. But from what I read on Third, I didn't see any problems with it. But yeah, you're right. 3.5 came out, and Fourth Edition. I like Fourth Edition. It's probably one of my most. I don't want to say favorite, but I favor it to play it. So fourth and fifth, and then I love classic as well, just because of the simplicity, no attacks of opportunity. You can incorporate all of the other dragon stuff and play mystics and druids and add in the optional skill checks and the weapon skill. I like that. I mean, I kind of like that. And I was thinking about taking one of the free AD&D rule sets from the community made from Fantasy Grounds and start importing my rules cyclopedia for D&D in there. I think that would be super fun to play. But I just like I like simple games, man. And that's why I didn't really I mean, I liked what I read on 3, and I liked that there was no more THAC0, and I love the way that the classes were built, but that's why I kind of shied away from it, just because of all the rules and stuff. But
I skipped 4 when fourth came out. I started having kids.
Fourth edition seriously was nothing like 3.5. Fourth edition is a really rule-light game. It really is. It has quite a few conditions, and what killed fourth edition was all of the little buffs that you can give your your other allies and stuff. You can give your constitution bonus to your mother's brother's uncle's sister's best friend's third roommate, stuff like that. I didn't like that, but the powers and the way the powers were and the short resting and rituals, all that stuff was awesome, man.
It was
I love it.
a tree-based system too, wasn't it? Like you worked your way up a tree kind of a thing?
Nope. No, there's like 10,000 powers between all 77 classes. So every level you got to choose a couple of powers, and by the time that you'd get up to around level 30, you'd be it was big numbers too, man. You'd have like a 50 plus AC, you'd be plus 50 to attack. The monsters would be 50, 60 AC plus 50 to attack. I mean, it's nothing like D&D now. D&D 5e is like you hit 5th level as a player and you're in God mode. You got fireball, you got lightning bolt, you got extra attack. You're golden. But it's nothing like 4th edition. The monsters, there were not just two cheesy, kobold and wing kobold in the monster manual. There are like 50 different kobolds for levels 1 through 30, which was the max. And every monster had that, whether it be undead or skeletons or orcs or hobgoblins. There were monsters for every level. There was none of that challenge rating bullshit or anything like that. It was cut and paste, and the monsters scaled well, and especially the early monsters, they were brutal. They were pretty brutal, and I really liked it.
Yes, just when you say that level 50 and 50 armor class, that stuff just Today, that makes me cringe, but back in the day, I would have been right into that. I feel like I know better now, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've seen the folly of my ways, so to speak. But yeah, in second edition, you would have Thaco, where you had to do all this weird, complicated math. I mean, it's easy once you get the gist of it, but sometimes you're like trying to get under this number.
Let me
Sometimes
break
you're
out
trying
my
to get
chart.
over, right? You got to look charts up and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. And then fifth edition. Fifth edition is when I got back into playing D&D. I did Adventurers League for 5 seasons or something like that at my local gaming store, and I loved it. I mean, it was fantastic. It's a simplified system. It's easy to use. It's basically you're just trying to get high all the time, like high is good and low is bad. And that's sort of like how they shot it across the board, which is fantastic. The characters and stuff were... Oh man! I mean, again, at the time when I started playing, I was right into it. Like they were good. But looking back, now that I'm not playing it anymore and I've moved on to different systems and stuff, it's like it's bad. I hate to say that.
Bad in what kind of way?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so like when it first came out, I know that there's community offshoots and you can basically play any kind of character that you want. But let's just say when fifth edition first came out, and you got your player's handbook. You have sort of like your 5 basic classes. I know there's actually 7 or 8 because you can take sorcerer and whatnot. They broke mage down into a few different kinds of deals, right? But let's say you took your rogue, for example. Your rogue at 3rd level would break into 3 different subclasses. Your fighter, same thing, at 3rd level breaks into 3 different subclasses. And that's sort of how it went. You start off all as the same, pick a couple of, I don't even think you get different skills. It's been 2 years.
Unless it was a fighter, you would get like a fighting style. You could either get a bonus with a 2-handed weapon or a shield or a bow or something like that.
But essentially, you're playing
like the fighter and the
same
ranger
character.
would get something like that. The paladin. Yeah. Oh, no, you're right. Absolutely. Every single fighter champion is the same. Every single thief rogue is the same. Every wizard is the same, except for the spells that they choose. There's the only customization that 5e has for classes is like the Battlemaster Fighter, because they get to take all the different battle maneuvers, and then you got the Sorcerer with the incantations. They can kind of beef up, or the Warlock. They can kind of beef up their spells, or they can kind of adjust things. Is that a ball sack hanging from your mic, Boom? Oh, it's a light. Oh, okay. No, sorry. I thought it was like one of those. Oh my God! It is a ball sack. Are you kidding me? I just kept looking at that. I'm like, are you kidding me? Is that what I think it is? Jesus, Gary. I see this living in Texas here. I see those all the time hanging off of big trucks, jacked up all the time. Unbelievable. I can't even hear you. You're muted now.
Sorry, man. I did mute myself. These are bike nuts. They're for your bicycle.
Oh my gosh.
Somebody had made a comment about my mic, how my mic looks like a giant long wiener. They're like, you need to get some balls for that. So I found bike nuts.
Oh my gosh. I would call talk about, I have the same one, but mine's the silver version, and I would always call this my cock mic. So when I first got it, I'm like, God, this thing is like massive, but yeah. I totally forgot what I was talking about, Gary. I'm sorry about that.
No, we were talking about the similarity between classes and stuff like that. Which is cool when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. You, for whatever reason, whenever you're involved in sort of in a system or whatever, like especially D&D being that it's so popular and it's been around for so long, everybody just thinks I feel like they just think it's the cat's ass because it's sort of really only what they know. And then humans by nature are tribalistic. So if you're in the D&D tribe, everything else is kind of junk. I was at the gaming store one day talking to one of the guys that works there, and I'm like, hey, what's out for new systems? And he hands me this $10 book, Savage Worlds. And I started reading it, and I realized what D&D has been doing wrong for so many years just by reading the Savage World book. And then I'm like, I got so into Savage Worlds, it was ridiculous because it's such a simpler system, and it adds so much more.
And it's vicious. It's a vicious system too, man. It's all about the acing die, man.
What a phenomenal feature of a game, acing die. So if you play a level 10 paladin and you walk into this is David Scott's, I believe, deal. You walk into a village and somebody, a farmer comes up to attack you. He's going to shoot you in the face with his crossbow or something like that. The crossbow is only doing X amount of damage.
And as a fighter at level 10, you probably got a 25 AC, so it ain't even going to hit you unless he crits. And then you're going to have 100 hit points and you're not going to take any damage.
Even if you said, I'm just going to stand still and just let him shoot you, it's only going to do like X amount of damage. And you have way more than that. It just takes away from the game, I feel. But anyways, I'm not here to sort of dog on D&D. But there's other systems out there that people should play.
Don't lie. Yes, you are.
Well, I guess I am. Because I haven't touched D&D in, I don't know how long it's been. Probably 2 years now, 2.5 years. I think I stopped playing Dungeons and Dragons when Ravenloft came out, and I think that's season 5 of Adventurers League was Ravenloft, and I loved it up till then. Absolutely loved it. Every Sunday I'd go down to my gaming store. I'd have random tables from anywhere from 4 to like sometimes 10 people show up, and nice. Man, D&D with 10 people. Yeah, right now I feel like putting a nail through my testicle because it'd be less painful than doing that.
And all that stuff's engineered for 4 people anyway, so yeah. I started reading about Savage Worlds, I'd say, back in right after the Explorer Edition came out. I mean, it's been 5-6 years since I've been into Savage Worlds, and that, when I got into Fantasy Grounds, I bought Fantasy Grounds for Castles and Crusades and Savage Worlds, and I thought the acing die mechanic was the cat's meow. I was like, wow, this is what talking about that 10th level fighter going into town. He goes up and pets the little honey badger that's by the water fountain, and all of a sudden that little honey badger is having a bad day. Somebody kicked it, and it just rips his arm off and he bleeds out, and he's dead. Because that can happen in Savage Worlds. I mean, it can happen. I mean, it's vicious, and I love it.
Your 50 Fathoms campaign, I just wrapped mine up 2 weeks ago, but it is absolutely my favorite setting. The world is small enough, being that I played D&D for so long, I know all about Forgotten Realms. I know where the cities are, the towns are, what's what, who's who, read all the books, read all the stuff about it and whatnot. It's, you get that many years behind your belt, even like Ravenloft. Anyways. So in my 50 Fathoms campaign, I had, just like you did, I had Gilligan's Island roll in, except I didn't have Gilligan's Island. I just had the professor. He was in this little town called Victoria. And so my son...
Yeah,
he wanted
to sorry, go ahead, continue.
He wanted to build something. I don't remember what it was, but I sent him into the jungle in the northern part of Torth Caw. He had to collect a bunch of stuff. So, of course, the professor makes anything out of coconut. So I had him go get coconuts. Yeah. He had to go get oil from a certain plant and a few other things. And I let him make coconut grenades. The captain of the ship was one of their buddies, Andrew. And my kid at the time is probably 14, 15 years old. And I'm playing with 14, 15-year-olds. And, of course, all they want to do is just wail on each other, right? So the one guy, CJ, is the captain of the boat, and all of my buddies my kids' buddies just want to kill the captain. That was their whole mission. Let's get rid of the captain so we could be the captain of the boat. So the professor sends him into the forest. He gets all this stuff and makes him coconut grenades. And in one foul sweep, an attack inside of the town of Victoria by the Red Men, they come over the gates and they're trying to fight him off. My son lights his coconut grenade and throws it at CJ and hits him for 48 points of damage. Explode. I'm like, oh. And that sort of sealed the deal for me, man. That's the point at which I'm like, I love this game.
Yeah.
It's things like that you just...
A couple of years ago, back in probably 2015 or 16, I was doing the zombie apocalypse game, and everybody's thinking, oh, these are just zombies. They just get a D6 to attack, and so one of my players came out of the camper, and all of a sudden it was like Living Dead, Living Dead or, Walking Dead or whatever it is. And all of a sudden this zombie just bit her. And when we were using Fantasy Grounds, so you can see the dice just keep rolling and rolling and rolling, and it would not stop. And she got rocked for 58 damage from a D6 attack. Oh man, it just did not stop acing. And then she says, I think I'm going to go ahead and make another character. So her character died. There's no way she was going to soak like 10 wounds. It was just ridiculous. Or 14 wounds, whatever it was. It was ridiculous, man.
Yeah, and it's moments like that for your players, even though they weren't really rolling the dice, that really like solidify cool moments in role playing, as opposed to the horror story that I could tell you about it is my son was playing a character, a fighter, had a crossbow, but he wasn't crossbow specialized. We're in the underneath. I can't remember what the name of the place was. Doing some of the Menzoberrands and stuff with the dark elves in one of the seasons and stuff, and they had to go down to this. Yeah, in the Underdark. And he's on one side of this cavern, and there's a golem on the other side. And we're going around the table, and people are casting spells, and people are doing things. It gets to my kid's turn, and he shoots him with the crossbow because he doesn't have anything else that he can do, and hits him for 6 points of damage. Well, man, that bloody elemental's got 100 and some odd points. Do you know how long that would take?
Going to run out of arrows or bolts.
And this is I was reading Savage Worlds while I was playing this adventure. Like, I hadn't actually got into my first Savage Worlds game, and I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, man, one well-placed bolt in that certain spot between the little rocks, armor or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyways.
No, I totally agree, man. Savage Worlds is a good system.
I pulled the plug on D&D. I haven't touched it since. I still love it. I mean, I love the lore. I love the world of Forgotten Realms. The characters and stuff that are in it. It still all appeals to me.
Just convert it to Savage Worlds or ICRPG.
Exactly. It's the mechanics of the system that just don't appeal to me anymore. There's none of that. There's no pressure on players at a certain level. They can just basically walk in wherever they want to go, and they don't have any worries about whether or not they're going to die. Whatever dragon breathes on you, your 10th level, you're walking away from it, or at least, you could run away, so to speak. You could go hide, but you don't have to worry about getting turned into toast. When I started doing the Savage Worlds podcast, I'm with Victor, Savage Rifters podcast. Victor was into ICRPG, which is what I bought for you.
Is that a little mini book? Is that a hardback?
It is. Yeah, it's hardcover.
Wow, that looks nice. I like it.
Print on demand.
Wow.
Skim through the PDF before you go and purchase it, but it prints through drive-through. Fantastic.
How much was that?
It's a stunning little book. I don't even remember. I think it was, if you bought the PDF with the book, I think $30, and you got the PDF with it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just a little.
That's what I should have did.
A little mini deal. Well, here's the thing. You haven't really skimmed much through ICRPG, so once you do and you figure out if it's you're up your alley or whatever, then that's the time to maybe look at purchasing.
I just got rid of 18 boxes of books to the game store. I don't need to start just hoarding books again. Although I do have a ton of credit left, and when I went into the game store, he had just bought out another game store and had about 60 to 70 boxes of original chainmail miniatures. Those are like the first pre-painted miniatures back in the D&D 3rd edition days. Oh my gosh. I started drooling. He's like, I think you would like these. And I said, yeah. I said, I got a bunch of store credit. He goes, I know. That's what I did the first time I had store credit with him. I wiped out all his unpainted miniatures. He just got them in. He put a post on Facebook, and an hour later I was in there and I already bought them. I took them all with my credit. I know he was probably like, God damn it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I have slowly been. I won't sell my books and stuff. Like if I went and got my 2nd edition player's guide, you would see there's a little ambulance sticker in the top corner. It's I want to say the gayest thing, but I know that's probably like socially not. Do you know what I mean? Because it's anyways. But there's a little ambulance sticker and it has my name in it.
If anybody gets offended with that, I feel sorry for him. So no, you go ahead.
So I've had these books for so long, and I got wiped out in we had a water tap blow at my house, and I walk in the door. Yeah, and it sounds like a freaking waterfall's going, and it's pitch black, and I'm like, "What is that noise?" I turn the lights on, and the water filtration system under the sink had blown off, and for about 3-4 hours, it was full water pressure into my house. Luckily, I keep all my shit in plastic totes, so a lot of my stuff was safe. But man, I had lost some really, well, to me, valuable stuff like my old Ravenloft books and whatnot. Anyways, ICRPG, dude. Let me sell you on ICRPG, and let me tell you what ICRPG will do for you. You can hear the spine cracking on this, can't you?
Brought to you by ICRPG. Yeah. No, I want to hear. Go for it. I've looked at it. I've glanced at it. I liked what I saw.
So, right out of the gate, you're talking $16, I think, for the PDF. No, I don't even think it's that much. I'm not even 100% sure how much it is. Excuse me.
You're so
This book-
awesome, Gary.
This book contains the how to play, because it is kind of its own little rule system, is really what it boils down to. It tells you how to build the characters. It gives you some world primers. There's 2 settings in this book. Alfheim, which is your basic fantasy setting, and Warp Shell, which is your science setting. Dave, whenever you've played a space game, or even when you played 50 Fathoms, let's take this to 50 Fathoms level. What was the worst part about
Starfinder.
50 Fathoms? Starfinder. So in Starfinder, how do they deal with traveling between systems?
There's warping, and you have to have a drift engine, and it's not bad. It's pretty much one dice roll. It's not too bad. But in Savage
Wow.
Worlds, I will say this. I think I heard you talk about it as well, if I'm not mistaken. But, it's fun to do the old school, putting a miniature down on a hex grid and moving each square X amount, and I actually modified mine where I quadrupled the traveling per day so we wouldn't have to do it, every single day, move to another square, do another random encounter roll, and it just got tedious. And so I would just say, by the end of it, I was like, okay, we're just going to do one random encounter roll just between
Warped
spots.
ahead.
Yeah, and we just 10 days ahead, is there an encounter? No, good, you're there. That's pretty much what we did. The micromanagement of food, water, etc. It was fun at first, but it just got a little tedious.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
but still, I love 50 Fathoms. It's probably one of my favorite settings. I'm big into East Texas University. I love ETU now, and I also enjoy Hellfrost. So yeah.
Yeah, you're a big Hellfrost guy. So how they handle it inside of Warp Shell is you don't steer the ship. So Warp Shell is actually the ship that you live in. It is this futuristic, highly advanced, self-aware ship that knows how to warp itself between or through space and time. You don't fly the ship. The ship takes you where it knows there's a problem, and you come out of warp space, and then you're just there dealing with it.
Nice.
So you don't have to go through any of the how many days is it going to take? How much fuel do we have? How much food do we have? It puts you in cryogenic sleep. You could play it that way, but there's no and even if you get jacked in space, then the warp shell would come out of space, right? But you don't actually have to fly the ship. You don't need a crew because it's like a self-aware sentient spaceship that flies you to where a problem is, which is pretty neat.
Engage number 1. Engage.
That said, what is cool about this book and how this book is going to help you as a dungeon master? I feel like I'm that crackhead guy that did all the coke on the ShamWow commercials. What's your pet peeve when you're playing with your players,
cars
Dave?
by chance, Gary?
No, I should though. The one thing that I've noticed sometimes, and I know that you'll feel the pain because I've seen it happen on your show. When you describe a situation to your players, and then all of your players, you're like, okay, what are you guys going to do? And all your players sit there and it's silence.
Huh?
And
Because
you
they
have
weren't
to nudge.
listening.
And you have to nudge, and you have to nudge, and you're sitting there in silence. You're like, and then you decide, okay, maybe I should pick a person, and then you know what I mean, and then finally you can pick it up. Or you get the sort of the opposite of that, where you're just playing a game with one person. You're playing a game with the most boisterous person in the group. You know what I mean? It's you and them, and then everybody else in the party seems to be a follower. They're not
Raiding in
actually
WoW,
participating.
playing Diablo, whatever they're playing, doing while they're playing. Yeah.
Right. So you know how ICRPG handles it? The best way, Eric Lamoureux, the best way, because I know he's probably going to watch this, and I've been joking around with it. There is no initiative system in ICRPG. I don't know why I keep waving the book at you. I'm going to set it down over here. How it does it is you go first as the dungeon master, you describe the setting, you start off doing whatever it is you're going to do, and you go around in a circle. There's no initiative. Combat happens when it happens. You interact with the first person to your left, who could be the fighter, could be whoever wants to sit there, and you tell a little bit of a story, right up into the point where you get him to roll a dice. And then you move from him on to the next person, and you interact with that person. That person can, expand on what happened between you and player A, and player B can expand on player A, and then you go to player C. And the idea is just to get it going around and around in a circle. The other benefit to ICRPG is you put up a static number. So it's called setting the scene number or the scene difficulty. And the gist of it is that you're going to pick a number between 13 and 20, and you're going to have it on your screen. So in Fantasy Grounds, which I know is what you play, you just share
That's the big leagues of virtual tabletops, by the way, Gary.
Absolutely.
Oh, no. I didn't say that.
I'm a big fan of Fantasy Grounds, and I'm also a big fan of Tabletop Simulator. What you do, Dave, is you set the scene difficulty. So you're going to set the scene difficulty to somewhere between 13 and 20-ish, right?
Uh-huh.
Then what happens is when you're dealing with your player, no matter what that player wants to do in the scene, whether it's pick a lock, jump a crevice, shoot somebody with a bow, attack somebody, hide, stealth, whatever, they just have to beat the scene number, that 13 that you put on the screen. Now, here's the beauty of it. The beauty of it is that when you lay that out for your players to see, you don't get them saying to you, did I hit it? Did I make it? Did I succeed? They automatically know whether or not they succeeded. If they try and do something exceptionally easy or exceptionally difficult, it has another mechanic that's simply +3, -3. So if they want to shoot a goblin that's far away or in the dark, you would say, oh, I see my camera crapped out. You would just say, give me a hard roll. And they would add 3 to whatever the target number is.
So soft means -3, right? The hard and soft.
Soft. Ooh, soft, yes. And that's really all there is to it. I mean, there's so much more to it than that. But that's the sort of the beauty of it is that you're interacting one-on-one with every player in your group. Yeah. And it's just as simple as talking to them, determining what they want to do, and then getting them to roll a dice. He's like, okay, if you the four of you are walking through this forest trail and you hear a rustling in the bush, and then you just sort of look over at player one, and then you're like, what do you how do you react to this noise? He could be like, I draw my bow and get ready to see what pops out, and then you could say a goblin and his crew pop out or something along those lines, and he's like, I shoot. Character creation, massively simple. In Dungeons and Dragons, this is also, by the way, very 5th edition based. If you know how to play 5th edition, you know how to play ICRPG. It uses the 6 main ones: strength, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. I think I got them all.
Yep.
Anyways, but rather than roll the 20-sided die or the 3d6 or any of that kind of stuff, you just simply get 6 points. And so it eliminates the having a strength of, say, like 1800. If you want to play a strong character...
That is a bullshit roll. If you had a 2nd edition character with an 18 double aught, you were a liar. I'm sorry. I can't tell you how many pickup games I would go to as a kid that had these fighters would have 18100 strength, and I'm like, you are full of shit. That is not... You are lying. I rolled it, dude. Yeah, okay, sure you did. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Gary.
So, character creation is as simple as assigning 6 points to those slots. If you want to be really strong, you're going to and you can put up to 6 points in your slot. Now, remember I was talking about the scene number earlier. So if that scene number is 13, and your players come across, say,
A
let's
soft
say a
13.
gate. Sure. Well, you want to go soft, you go. I like to go hard. Well, let's say that you roll up to a gate and he wants to, or a lock or something like that. Let's use a thief for the example. Now the scene is 13, or the scene target, the target number for the scene is 13, and you've put 6 points into your dexterity, and you're trying to pick the lock to get through the door because there's an ogre chasing you down the hallway. You take the 6 points that you have. I would just say, give me a dexterity roll. If your dexterity is +6 and the scene is 13, you really only need to beat a 7 to succeed because you're so dexterous, right? Excuse me. There's no...
Just let it out, Gary. This is the Digital Dungeon Master podcast. Just let it out, bud.
There's no stealth. There's no pickpockets. There's no... like all of the what do you call them? Where you put your modifiers into it. Yeah, there's no skill checks, but all the skill checks are based on. So if you're gonna attack somebody with a club, you're just gonna say, "Give me a strength roll." Yeah. And if he's got 6 points into his strength and he's attacking a goblin, the scene is 13. He's got +6, so he needs a 7, and he just rolls and swings his club, and that's a hit. He knows that he hits.
Sounds like 5e.
You've got. It's very simple. It's super simplistic. Like once you read the book, you don't have to go back and look at the rules, which is fantastic. Weapon damage, there's 4 types of damage. You have basic damage, which is a D4. You have weapon damage, which is a D6. You have magic damage, which is a D8. And then you have ultimate. So if you roll a 20, 20's just like in Dungeons and Dragons or a critical hit, you get to add a D12 to your die. Here's the beauty of it. Swords, daggers, bows, anything. The damage number that you're doing doesn't really matter. It's a D6 across the board. So if you were to pick 3 weapons of character creation, right? No. Your strength only helps you
on attacking, right?
On attacking. Okay. But you could put those 6 points into your weapon damage, and then you would get the bonus 6 points. But then
you wouldn't be able to hit shit.
You would still have to, so you have to spread your points out. Mm-hmm. Right? You want to make an all-around kind of a character.
It's like your first character in Savage Worlds. You got a D20 in fucking agility, so you can attack and shoot and everything, but you don't have anything else in strength, and you can't make any rolls for your soaks or for shaking, and you're pretty much screwed. So, yeah. Sorry, a little tangent there.
So it's the cool part about this game is now we're talking about the loot. Everybody loves loot. That's why we play. We played 5th edition because you want to kill it, and you want to loot it, and you want to get its goods. Mm-hmm. So how you control everything in this game, like through space, time, damage, the distance you can move,
I love you,
all of
Gary.
That kind of stuff.
Have I told you that lately? I love you, Gary.
Thanks, pal. It's all done through loot. So if you're going to take the Guardian, let's say you're taking a tank class. The milestone rewards for that class would be something cool like a battle standard. You could take a battle standard as part of your starting your starting gear. All fighting or allies fighting next to you gain 2 armor. So just by holding that battle standard, anybody that's around you now has their armor class go from a base of 10 to a base of 12.
That's awesome.
You could take a spike shield. Deal 3 damage on a missed attack.
And that's on the tiers, right? On character creation and advancement, right? On the tiers, right? I remember seeing that.
These are just starting gear. You're allowed 10 pieces of carried loot and 10 equipped loot.
Okay.
So you could take a war horn, for example, and that will give an ally +3 on their next attempt.
Wow.
And that's what you do, yeah. So you're like, I blow my air horn, I blow my war horn, and then Jimmy, who's going to shoot, Jimmy Quickshot, he breaks out his bow. This is also cool.
Jimmy Soft Quickshot.
The archer could take a speed quiver, and if the ranged attack is a modified 13 or higher, he gets to shoot again. So it does have like an acing dice mechanic. Here's the cool part, Dave. You can make any kind of loot you want. I could give you slippers that will allow you to not only increase your distance, but maybe they'll give you +2 to your strength. That's it. There is no skills to pick from. There's none of that weird fancy shit. When you say, take an advancement in your level, you could literally just give them a piece of loot and say, okay, this shield is going to increase your strength by 2 and give you 10 hit points.
Well, that's all you get is 10 hit points anyway, right? Or something like that?
You can take up to 5 what's called heartstones. 1 heartstone is 10 hit points, so you could have up to 50, but it never goes past 50. There's some really cool and really well thought out loot. There's a bow in here that when you shoot, you hit everything between where you are and your target. So if there's 3 people, that bow, that arrow goes through all 3 of them, and you get a roll damage on all of them. But again, it's a very simple system. So how it helps you, there's no initiative. Everything is it just goes around
from left to right
in turns.
Everybody's hard or soft. So, I mean, you got 3 and -3 +3. I like it.
It's simple.
No?
Right? You don't have to stop and roll initiative. There isn't this, okay, add your dexterity to your D20, tell me what you got, I'll write it down on a separate piece of paper.
Don't forget
then
your
I'll
half level from 4th edition. Don't forget half level.
Right? I'm going to put that in an order from top to bottom, and then I'm going to tell you when you go because you're going to be playing on your cell phone and not paying attention to what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So it's a cool way to go about doing it. Instead of rolling initiative, it gets rid of all of the excessive junk. There's no spell slots, there's no PowerPoints, there's none of that. You just give the stuff to your players and go tell a great story. That's really all it's about.
Oh, that's awesome! You'll have a wizard casting fireball every single round. I cast fireball. I cast fireball. I cast fireball.
Absolutely, but here's the thing.
I'm just kidding.
No, it's true, and you let them do it. And here's
the
reason
D8,
why.
Right? Because it's magic, so it would be D8, right?
It's just a straight D8. It's not like they do like excessive damage with fireball where they're rolling 66 and doing, any spell you want to cast a bolt, for example, it's a D8. Unless I give
sort
you
of like
a
the
ring.
trappings from Savage Worlds, right?
Exactly.
You just call whatever spell you're casting. That's how I took it.
And there's no experience points. There's no leveling. You just basically assign milestones and
couple per game. I read that. See, I read more than you think I did.
It's a fantastic system. Now, even if you don't like the system after you read it, there's nuggets of goodness in here that are going to allow you to do things. It's kind of a toolbox as well as a system. Have you read the timers dice that's in here?
I did not know.
So you take a D4 when it's your turn. You roll the D4, whatever it lands on, you go around that many times and you make something happen. So we'll go back to the initial one that I was talking about with the goblins walking through the forest or whatever, right? Maybe there's a hidden sack of goblins.
Or baking a cake in the kitchen.
You like that one?
That was absolutely horrible, Gary.
So dumb. Every
baking a cake dramatic task. That was just unbelievable. I loved it though. It was good.
There's some good nuggets in the Wild Eye podcast. Anyways, when it comes around to your turn, you reduce the timer die. When it goes down to 1, you make something happen. Everybody make a dexterity check to avoid the volley of arrows coming from the forest. Nice. Everybody, make a dexterity check to avoid the blast of something or
from
other.
The cake that's blowing up because you failed.
Hell yeah, brother!
I like it.
So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in here. Here's one other thing too. Like I keep having to go back to opening the book and stuff like that.
I thought you said you never have to open it up, Gary, but you've opened it up about 20 times.
I know, but I just wanted to show you stuff.
There's a bunch of charts and stuff. Yeah, I like that, man.
So one of the things that happens to us as dungeon masters is we fall into the trap of fighting in a box. You stop and forget that maybe your goblins are on the other side of a chasm or a chasm, whatever you want.
And everybody's like, just let them come through the door one at a time and we'll just mow them down. Well, guess what? The Kool-Aid Man's going to bust through the fucking wall and it's going to be a huge open room now. Sorry.
So that's what this.
Sorry.
That's Dave goes on.
Oh yeah.
That's what this book makes you think about because the guy that wrote it was all about game theory and stuff. Like he's really talented when it comes to doing stuff like that. You want to put in pinch points, you want to put in corners, you want to put in traps. Don't just have your players fighting monsters inside of a box.
No,
There's so many good useful nuggets inside this book. Yeah. A lot of what's in here too is just it's literally like if you just took Dungeons and Dragons and scraped away all the unnecessary stuff. Like if you think about initiative really is unnecessary. If you can do this turn-based system in this, and combat can arise at any given time. You could be rolling up to the guards at the gate and you're talking to player A, who's the fighter, and he's trying to sweet talk the guards. Okay, give me a charisma roll. Maybe he's got a modified charisma of +2, and try and sweet talk the guards into letting you in. And he fails, the guard shoves him back, and then that's it. You're done with that guy until it comes around. Then you go to the thief, and you're like, you see Jimmy get pushed back as the guard sort of looms over him and puts his hand on the hilt of his sword. Jimmy's like, yeah, F that guy. I pull out my bow, right? And he shoots him. Give me a dexterity roll against this guy. And then he rolls, and you just go around, and it's rapid action.
Make that a hard roll. Make that a +3 too, by the way.
Shoot him with your boner arrow.
Stupid. Is that one of the magic items that you can roll on the table for, the boner arrow?
You could. I said bow and arrow. What are you?
I heard boner arrow.
Oh man!
I saw there's a lot of charts and tables to roll too in that game. I liked what I saw, Gary. I really did.
It is action packed. Look at the character sheet, Dave. See the character sheet?
Yeah.
Check that out.
There's
literally
nothing
to it.
Yeah. No.
And here's the thing that I find, like after playing games or playing, DMing for so many years.
That book sounds like it's fixing to die, by the way, every time you open it.
Do you hear it?
It's saying, help me. Every time you open it, I can hear, help me.
I use the PDF. You were talking earlier about crafting your world and stuff like that.
Well, that's what I was just fixing to say when you were talking about, the creator of the game. That's one thing that I've been preaching the whole time when I've been talking about doing this with my patrons and everything else and on my content creation streams. I'm just not going to do that. You have an initiative versus 2 orcs. I'm taking 2 other elements into account as well. The terrain. So what type of terrain are they in? That's going to influence the fight as well. So if they're in a sloshy swamp, their movement's going to be hindered every single round. Maybe all of a sudden a thunderstorm comes out of nowhere, and hey, a bolt of lightning comes down, and there's a random chance it could hit one of you, or the volley of arrows or whatever. That's just what I want to do. I don't want just these boring encounters. I want to take other things into account, like pits that are hidden, and these swinging pendulums in the hallways as you're fighting in the hall. All of a sudden you hit a tripwire that you don't notice, and wham, all of a sudden you get hit by a swinging axe. So that's the stuff that I want to do. Acid and spraying fountains, and that's the kind of stuff I want to do.
So ICRPG would handle that in this fashion. If you're in a swamp, you're only able to move near, which is, if you're in combat, wait a second, I want to make sure I get this right. If you're in combat, I can't remember what it's called. Near is the distance that you can move to somebody and attack. Anything beyond that is far. So you're either in combat range, which, you just go ahead and attack. You can move up to near, which they use a banana. So imagine on a board, if you're playing on a mat or something like that, rather than count the squares, everybody kind of knows how big bananas are. You can move that distance anywhere on the board. Don't worry about counting the squares. If you're one away, just move and go do your thing. So how it would handle it, your swamp deal, you would only be able to move near. You wouldn't be able to move past that. So that limits your whatchamacallit. As the threat die, or as the lightning strikes or whatever, you do that every time the threat timer hits 1. Lightning flashes. Everybody make a wisdom check to cover your eyes, or make a dexterity check to jump out of the way of the lightning bolt, and then you could wail like one player or something like that. Like, it handles all of that stuff with super, super simplistic ways of doing things, which is what I love about it. There's I don't have to look at the book when I'm playing the game, because there's essentially no rules. is sort of what it boils
Yeah.
down to. It's a wicked system, man. I mean, I highly recommend just reading it. A lot of my friends ride my ass about it, but this was actually on, not only is it a Mithril seller, but it was one of the top 10 sci-fi books of the year. I can't remember what website it was on, but you will gain some nugget of information that you will like just deem as super valuable, even if it is one-on-one, engaging with your players one-on-one instead of asking the question, okay, what do you guys do? Because that just leads to the stutter death
Crickets.
is what I
Yeah, the crickets.
right.
Yeah.
And isn't that the worst, especially when you're trying to produce your show? Like crickets is the worst, man.
That it doesn't. I've actually got two really nice groups, and it doesn't happen too often. In fact, I don't recall it happening in quite a while. But I'm pretty lucky. I have a lot of good players. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I've had those moments in the past, especially in the old pickup games that I used to do. I would be like just looking, and then I just like kind of roll my eyes in the camera, and I actually, no shit, Gary, back when I used to use another program for sound, I used to always have the cricket noise queued up, and then if I didn't hear anything, I would start playing the cricket noise, and so the players they hated that. They knew if they were getting crickets that
right. I guarantee you won't have the crickets. If you're engaging each player individually, one-on-one, and just going around the table, you're just telling a story. You're telling a cooperative story between you and every person at the table. Here's the other thing too. Like if you don't have crickets, do you find that you're mostly interacting with usually the most boisterous player? There's always that one person that is sort of like the leader of the group that steps up, and then everybody else follows that guy. This eliminates that as well. It eliminates any kind of you having to keep track of who gets to go first. But you play in Fantasy Grounds in D&D, that gets taken care of anyways, right?
It gets everybody involved, so that's a good thing.
And that's what I really like about this. Yeah. ICRPG really gets everybody involved. You're interacting with each player on an individual level, telling a small piece of the story. Everybody gets their little piece of the pie as it goes around. And then there's elements with the threat die or the timer die that allow you to throw in just random shit and dodge the volley of arrows. Everybody make a dex check to watch, get out of the way of the
exploding
the log
birthday cake.
Sorry,
the exploding birthday cake that's in the middle of the swamp for no fucking reason. So.
Oh, but yeah, and it's super easy. Weapons are the same damage across the board. Spells are the same damage, and you can manipulate anything from how far players move to how much damage they do just by giving them a piece of gear. There's no difference between you say your fighter takes an advance and becomes a level 2 fighter. Now all of a sudden, let's say I think at level 4 in D&D, it's level 4 or 5, you get a second attack.
Level 5.
So what's the difference between hitting level 5 and all of a sudden you get a second attack, or playing ICRPG and I give you a sword that lets you do 2d6 damage instead of just 1d6?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing, right? Like whether or not it's loot or whether or not it's a skill that you get. Here's one thing where this is better. The reason ICRPG is better in that perspective is, let's say that you progress in levels and now you're level 10. Inside of Dungeons and Dragons, your character is fixed as to what he can do because you're only getting certain skills and abilities at certain levels. Inside ICRPG, because those skills and abilities are given to you through loot, let's say that you don't want to move twice as far anymore. You find that that's not useful at level 10 or at your 10th advance. You can take those slippers off, throw them away, and put on a pair of boots that'll let you climb a tree twice as fast, or do something else in a different way. So you're not confining your character to a set of skills from 1 to 10 that are going to be the same as everybody else. Your character's going to be unique. Jimmy's got a flaming sword that does 2d6, or it does 1d6, and it does a magic die as well. This is the beauty, and what I love about this game is that you can custom craft the character that you want based on loot that you find, or you could just talk to your DM and say, hey, I'm really looking to sort of get this, right? X item or something.
Well, they have
like
a
that.
coin system and a random magic items tables too, right? That you can just roll off of, I think, right?
all sorts of stuff. It is
So-
so worth the money.
Yeah. So at level 1, you can have 1 magic item. At level 2, you can have 2 up to 10. Is that how it works, or is it at level 1 you
There's
just get
no
10?
restrictions.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's no restrictions. You can have a maximum of 10 equipped and 10 carried. So if you were going to make, let's say you're going to make a first level guardian, which is the tank class, you basically put your 6 points into a strength, dexterity, wherever you want them to go, or basic damage, weapon damage, magic damage, or ultimate damage, or you can put them into your armor class. I'll show you the warp shell one, Dave. This is a really cool item. So the warp shell has a tank. And the tank in the book is a robot. Check it out. So here's the cool part. You can take, where is it? The impervium plating? Nope. Pulse boots? Nope. Force shield, here it is. So you know how I said weapon damage is a D6? So let's say you take this tank. Recommended starting gear is a force shield module. Basically, you get a shield that ignores any damage of 4 or less.
That's nice.
You can
Holy crap.
you can make stuff up. So you know your tank walks out into the middle of a bunch of blaster fire. Pew, 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 pew. I'm doing all the start. Pew, 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 pew.
Yeah.
And he's getting hit all of the time. But anything that's less than 4 on a D6, he doesn't take. It just his shield absorbs it all.
Yeah.
And it's just an item. Right now, here's the cool part. As a dungeon master, let's say you critically hit him. On one of your rolls, your character critically hits him.
He'll only take
You're
damage
just
4
like-
and over, like 5 and
Well,
over, right?
I would say that the turret or whatever that blasts a hole in you blows your force shield module up and it's destroyed.
Oh, so you can do that kind of stuff.
Anymore.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I like it.
It's all about taking and giving away. The DM
I taketh
taketh
and I
giveth.
giveth. Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
I
you
like
can
it.
get
I
pulse
like
boots,
that.
make a dash move, and still have time to attack. A field stim is a 3 count, heals 1 to 12 hit points. Ion ammo module, explode any shot, including nearby targets in the blast. You make the stuff up. It's limited only by your imagination. Any kind of cool weapon that you can think. You want to have a ring on the guy's finger that gives him +3 to intelligence, but he could rip it off and throw it into a pile and it would create a fire blast. You just create that. Here's the ring I'm giving you. This is what it does. In a pinch, pull it off, throw it. It acts like a grenade. In a near blast radius, it'll do magic damage to everybody. Priests in this game, they get a spell right out of the gate where they can heal all of their allies by making a successful wisdom check. It's not just healing one person. And
everybody.
there's gimmicks for casting spells. So if you wanted to cast a spell and let's say you wanted to throw some difficulty on top of it and just not have them cast spells willy-nilly unlimited style, you can have them roll like a timer die. So you set it at a D6 every time they cast a successful spell. They
cool.
notch it down. When they get to 1, they make a wisdom check.
cool.
If they succeed, you put it back to 6 and they carry on.
I like it.
So-
That's cool.
Yeah. It's wicked, dude. It's well worth the read. It's full of nuggets for dungeon masters. It's half game, half there's 2 settings, a sci-fi and fantasy. And it's half toolkit for how to be a kick-ass DM and make wickedly cool combat scenarios for people. And then you throw on top of that the static number. So when your players do make a successful attack, they know it right away because they've beat the target number, and they can just go from, instead of stopping and asking you, did I hit it? They can just carry on from them attacking, rolling the dice, and rolling their damage, and they can
Because they know the
narrate
target
what
number.
happens.
Yeah, they know the target
know.
number. Yeah,
There's no more did I hit it.
it's awesome.
You know what I mean? It's wicked cool. It's wicked fun. And it's not for everybody. I get the gears from my friends. There's no crunch to the system. It's super light, but it's incredibly flexible and it's incredibly creative. And again, it does cool shit that allows you to just the idea of going around the table and getting rid of initiative for me was like, wow, that's actually a friggin' ingenious idea. Especially when I've seen. Go ahead.
Initiative is pretty cool in Savage Worlds too, so because it gets rid of the static. Okay, I'm planning my move when I'm doing. I've even home ruled my new games, and starting this year, there is no more static. We're using the feature inside of Fantasy Grounds to re-roll initiative every single round. Is what we're doing.
Oh,
for
nice.
D&D 5e. So it eliminates planning out your move, and if you can go last, and then you can go again the next round first, just like Savage Worlds, basically.
Yeah, that's fantastic. See, here's the other. There's so many benefits to this. Let me just, in Savage Worlds, because you are dealt a card every round. So one round you could go first, the next round you could go last. If you're playing with 5 players, that's 8 people or 9 people that go between your first turn and your last turn. Combat could be over by then, and you've had one turn.
Yeah.
That is why this round the table, no initiative thing. But in Savage Worlds, you get cool things like edges. Have you seen the new edge Hesitant? Hesitant allows you to draw 2 cards. You have to operate on the lowest one of the 2 of them because you're like, what do I do? What do I do? Right? But the cool part is if you get a joker, you use it like normal. So you kind of like, which is another cool way to go about it. I really dig in the new Suede rules, man.
Aki's already got that new rule set being tested already. Can you believe it? He's a machine, dude.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that you do some Savage Worlds. Did you see the numbers for the games played on Fantasy Grounds?
Third place. Yeah, third place.
5%, buddy.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
it.
I know.
660,000 5th edition games.
It's what everybody wants to play. That's why I preach diversity. Even to all the D&D players, I always preach. Have an open mind, try different rule sets. There's a lot of great games out there.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff out there. That is Victor turned me on to this ICRPG, and I've probably deemed a good 5-10 nuggets out of this that I started using in other games.
Well, I'm going to read more about it. I mean, I've already taken a look at it. I appreciate you getting it for me. I am definitely going to read more about it because I like the customizing your character, sort of like Savage Worlds with buying edges and hindrances and stuff. I like that with the magic items where you have 10 equipable items so that you can have 10 different bonuses. I like that. So I'm definitely going to be checking it out. So, all right, Gary. So why don't you tell everybody where the heck they can find you on all the different outlets that you have?
Okay, so starting with the Wild Eye podcast, that is on Podbean. That is a strictly Savage Worlds podcast. That's all we talk about, anything related to Savage Worlds. That's me, Eric Lamoureux. Again, going to be soon release. Wise Guys, keep your eye out for that, Dave. We'll play some Wise Guys.
I better get a free PDF for that. I better get one because I'm going to check
Eric
it out.
I think Eric should paint his scrotum and then dip it onto the page and then send it to you with his initials on it. So you would have like an impression of his. No? But judging by the look in your face, that's not a good idea.
I don't want that. I don't want that.
Maybe there'll be a little hair in there you could use for a bookmark.
Oh my gosh.
Me and Harrison Hunt and Eric Lamoureux do the Wild Eye podcast. And then myself and Victor Diaz, we do the Murder Hobo show, which is, again, just me talking about other stuff, imparting these little nuggets of goodness on people. We have 2 podcasts. One is Savage Riffs because, again, I know that you're probably not a fan of Savage Riffs because earlier when I was talking about it. But we do the Savage Rifters podcast, and we do Threats, Treats, and Timers where we talk all about ICRPG and the goodness that is ICRPG.
That's cool.
And then I also have YouTube. If you're interested in playing Tabletop Simulator, Dave.
I do like Tabletop Simulator. I haven't played it in a while.
It's fantastic. I do a bunch of things like, show you how to import stuff, make stuff, do things. I have my own YouTube page, but nobody goes there. I think I have 200. I just do stuff on paper minis. Have you ever seen my paper mini video that I did where I burned
minis, whatever there, or something like that?
No, there's so many good Patreon. I know that you hate Patreon. I probably spend $100 and some odd dollars a month on Patreon because
enjoy it while it's still there. Enjoy it while Patreon's still there.
There's another guy on there called Printable Heroes that makes the minis.
Yeah,
this one,
the Orcus. Yeah, those are beautiful, man.
Yeah, he did that one. I think I got another one. Oh no, I had some mushrooms that were around here earlier. I don't know where they went to. Printable Heroes, man.
Got some Shriekers. Nice.
Top notch paper or little paper miniatures, and he also imports them into the silhouette portrait. So for me to make paper miniatures, it's just a matter of dragging them onto like a mock-up and printing them off, and my printer cuts them out. Blue Sword Games. This guy does the most incredible maps. Like, they're phenomenal. They're like almost as good at, well, they're on par with Sovius, I want to say. Another dude, Paperforge Minis. Holy crap. There's so many good people on there that do like some wicked, fantastic art. Anyways, that's why I'm on whatchamacallit. I'm actually not on there, but I do sink money into your show, and I don't like you that much.
I appreciate it.
No comment, right?
I don't like your show though. I don't even know if anybody's going to be watching this. So, but Gary, man, I totally appreciate you coming on. You know, we'll have to do this again. And
I appreciate the invite, Dave. I just like hanging out with you and talking gaming stuff all the time.
I agree. You know, we're still going to have to do that A-Team Savage Worlds one shot, and I know you're going to cosplay B.A. Baracus, so.
I'm going to cosplay B.A. Baracus like he was Arnold from Different Strokes. What you talk about, B.A.? No, what was the commander guy's name?
Hannibal.
Hannibal. What you talk about, Hannibal?
What you talking about? And there was Murdoch, Face.
Face?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There was also a woman that was on there for a number of episodes.
Yeah. I think that was later on. So,
dude, you got to come out and play with us early in the morning too. I know that you said that it's a little bit.
You play
early.
at like 5 o'clock my time. That's like
7 o'clock. You should be up with a bowl full of Cheerios in your belly by 7 in the morning, man.
Sunday is the only day that I really sleep in. So, we'll see, Gary. I'll have to
rig your bed up so that you can play from like the comfort of your own bed.
I don't even know what to say. I'll just get a medical bed, and then I can just kind of have a Stephen Hawking type of setup or something.
Sure, you should actually. The next time you talk to Harrison, get Harrison to do his Stephen Hawking's impersonation.
Is he pretty good?
Yeah, he's really good at it. So yeah, check me out in the Wild Eye. Check me out on Murder Hobo Show, Podbean, something or other. Don't know. And
Google it.
You can look
just
at my
Google
YouTube.
It.
Check out my YouTube page, which is just a bunch of tabletop simulator stuff that I do. And yeah, that's about it.
I'll tell you what, Gary. You give me all your links, and then I'll put them in the description in the comment section below on the YouTube video. We'll do that.
Well, see, that's the thing, Dave. Is I do this for fun. You do this because this is your job. I do this.
No,
for fun,
I do it
so
for fun. I have a full-time job. I have a full-time job. I just go with the flow now. So yeah.
Listen, that street corner that you're working on is not really considered a full-time job.
You can see me in El Paso on the corner of McCombs. And
you want to buy my burrito, senor?
See, spicy sauce. You get a hard sauce +3. But
right?
All right, Gary. Well, thanks for hanging out, man. And appreciate having you on. Yeah, man, it's awesome as always. And I'm sure we'll do this again. So, everybody, thanks for joining us again. I'll have all of Gary's links. It'll be like pulling fucking teeth from him, but I'll get all of his links, and then you can check out all of his different outlets. And Gary's a good guy, and check out his stuff. So, thanks, Gary.
Okay.
Yeah, you're awesome. I got a man crush on you. So, all right.
Thanks, pal.
We'll see you guys next time. And until next time, happy gaming and stay safe. Bye, everybody.